Thursday at 5. So we'll start off with Tom Gary. If anyone else has got a question, just raise your hand and I will get to you eventually. But Tom, if we start with you first from the Telegraph.
Thanks, Hayley. Hi, Casey.
Hi.
Wondering, with Arsenal's history and being the most successful club in the country historically, to potentially finish above them for the first time as a club, what would that mean and what would that represent for your club's journey?
It would mean we achieved our objectives. It would mean that we've qualified for Europe, and it's another step on the direction that we want to go in. In 3 years, is it a good journey we've been on? Yes, but it won't be until we've got that third place, and there's 6 games to go. So we are very much on that journey at the moment. We know it's difficult. We know Arsenal's track record, but someone has to break in there, don't they? So we're going to have a real good go at it.
And have you been surprised by the fact that they are where they are and they're not right up there mathematically alongside Chelsea at the top of the table?
I'm not, because of the year that we've had. They've suffered a lot of injuries like we have. And I think they've hit them at crucial times as well. So, I think they've drawn a couple of games they probably, in previous years wouldn't have. Other teams have took points. It's been a funny old league. Chelsea lose against Brighton, we lose against Reading, which would have been results people don't expect. And then obviously Arsenal have dropped points, and where everybody else has been pretty consistent, that's obviously took its toll. But listen, they're still a very, very good side, and Joe's a very good manager.
Thanks very much, Casey. All the best.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Moving on to Alex, please.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Alex.
From a tactical perspective, you mentioned there that they move Viv kind of a bit lower, playing that false 9 role with Caitlin Ford right in front of her. And you also saw Jordan Nobbs and Danielle van den Donk interchanging from the midfield onto the wing, which happens quite often, especially recently. How hard is it to plan to defend Vivian Miedema, for example, when you're coming up against an Arsenal that has been in form kind of in the past couple games? How hard is that to plan around?
I think you have to focus on the team element for them. Because I think if you focus solely on one player, Beth Mead will hurt you. If you focus solely on the player that scores goals, Caitlin Ford scoring goals, Jordan Nobbs can rotate in and out. Van der Donk, if she plays, is a very good player. So you have to focus on your defensive organisation as a team. I thought my centre-backs were absolutely outstanding in our home game, and they're going to need to have those same levels again to make sure that we, have a chance of winning the game and keeping a clean sheet.
And stepping outside from a coaching perspective, if you can, how excited are you to kind of see this game unfold from a women's football perspective? As a fan, as a person who wants to see the best of women's football displayed. And how excited are you to see this?
Well, it's the first ever time we've got people fighting off in terms of trying to qualify for a top 3, because we've never had it before. There's always been 2 teams really in a race. Sometimes one's run away with it. But to have 4 teams so tight this season, I think it can only bode well and be exciting for the women's game.
And how much does that say about your team in the position that you're right now?
It says I've got a very, very hard-working group of players that are fantastic, and I know that they'll go out there and they'll give absolutely everything on Friday to try and get a result, because they want to play in Europe, as does every other player.
Thanks, Casey. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. Moving on to Molly Hudson, please.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Molly.
I just wondered obviously we're going into the next season and the restructure of the Champions League. I wondered what your reflections are on the competition from when you was a player and in and around the game, and now as a manager. Does it feel as though the Champions League is becoming sort of more and more a thing that you want to be a part of? Because always in men's football, it's sort of the pinnacle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when I was playing, it was still something you wanted to play in. It was something you wanted to be involved in. But I don't think the profile of it was great. I think the magnitude of the event now and the profile of the competition and the fact that it's got its own slot, and obviously that UEFA are looking at how they can really capitalise now on that final and make sure that in terms of the group stages and what that looks like, there's more investment. So I think, of course, it means for the women's game, it's the absolute pinnacle in terms of European football. So, as a head coach, you want to be in and around it. And as a player, my players want to play in it.
And you mentioned earlier on about the fact that, sort of ironically, it has been Arsenal and United that have both suffered injuries that have arguably meant that we are more focusing on the Champions League than maybe the title, where we would have been a few months ago possibly. Is there a sort of a case of what could have been if all of those players are fit, or is it just a case of the season and the way it's been, it's sort of something you expected to have injuries?
If I'm honest, yeah, injuries have hit at crucial times. To be missing Tobin against Chelsea, Lucy Staniforth being out for so long, Lauren James being out for so long, Alessia Russo, who by the way was absolutely flying when she got injured. You take them 4 players out of any team, you aren't able to have the same game plan potentially. You aren't able to go with your absolute strongest, but you know, that's not an excuse. You know, we've gone to every ground, we've had a go. We were at Chelsea opening game, we get a draw. We had 4 outfielders on the bench, and I was even looking at Amy Turner at one point thinking I'm going to put her on up front in a minute because we were so bare minimum. But that's why you've got a squad. You know, I'm not a manager that makes excuses. Would I have liked to have my whole squad more available? Absolutely. Would I? Because I question, could we have maybe pushed a little harder if everyone was available? But that's football, and it's been a season like no other in terms of injuries for us. We are reviewing absolutely everything in terms of why. And some of it, I'll be really honest, is just absolute rubbish luck. But we move forward. You know, we've got fantastic players and we have to keep pushing forward.
Thank you and good luck.
Cheers, Molly. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. As if next, please.
Hi, Casey. Hope you enjoyed your weekend off. However much you might tell the players you want to win on Friday, in the back of their minds, they will know that a draw is a better result for Manchester United than Arsenal. So what do you say to them to prevent them falling back into this mindset during the game? Can you recall any particular matches in your career where you only needed a draw? And what are the dangers in only playing for a draw?
We don't do draws, as if. We don't prepare for draws. We never go into a game to draw. We're going into the game to win with the mindset to try and keep a clean sheet and score goals. There is no other mindset. It's up to me to manage the game tactically from the sideline in the circumstances that we go behind or in front. But we are going into this game to win.
And also, when you took the job in June 2018, I'm sure you had a plan of where you wanted the club to be after 3 years. So is qualifying for the Champions League what you expected for the club, or do you feel your team has exceeded your expectations and is ahead of schedule?
I'd have to say we're probably a year ahead in terms of where we're at, but I'm not surprised. I see the players work rate day in, day out. I see the staff that I've got around me. And we're an ambitious team and I'm an ambitious coach. And my players will tell you that, you know, I drive them to standards that we can achieve Champions League football, you know, and that's what we do every day. So if we do achieve it, it'll be a fantastic achievement, but it's just one step on the road.
Okay, thank you, Casey. Good luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks. Amy, next, please.
Hey, Casey, I hope you're well. You touched on it a little bit then about Alessia Russo. Obviously, she's been talking about a recovery this week. How is that going? And from your perspective, what have you noticed about her approach to that recovery that's maybe impressed you?
Yeah, unfortunately, she was due back. She's had a setback. So in terms of her mental resilience, she's been tested more than any player this season. She is a very incredible young woman with so much fight, desire, dedication, focus. And there would have been any player that would have maybe crumbled under the circumstances that she's been under. But every day she comes in with a new purpose, with a new energy. And she's got so much in front of her because of her mentality. You know, it can take her wherever she wants to go with her talent and her mentality. And
another injury update this week, because obviously that's all we've got this week, all this year from you. Ivana Fuso, obviously her season's ended. How kind of strange has it been for her this season? She's had some real highs, the Brazil debut and stuff, and some lows such as this week.
Again, you know, when she went down on Tuesday, I had my head in my hands. I just couldn't believe it. And it was a freak. One player slipped, bumped into her and she rolled her ankle. And it was, you just can't write it. And I just, for her on a personal level, like, it's been so difficult. Let's not forget, she's not English speaking. She's away from home in COVID time. She can't go home. She's basically been out the entire season with 3 different injuries. I think coming over maybe from a league that's not as intense, joining our training environment that is more intense. She had to adapt too quickly. Unfortunately, she had a freak injury at training on her knee that put her out for a little while. She come back, and then she was doing so well. And obviously, the debut for Brazil, she's up here, and then she comes back and she gets injured and she's out. But she's a fantastic, young player again with great mentality. So, we'll work hard with her during this time. We'll make sure that we give her every opportunity that if she was to be selected for the Olympics, we will put her in the best position to be able to do that. And just lastly, you kind of touched on it a bit with Molly, but is it, you were top at Christmas and in a really incredible position for Champions League, and, it's a point where, Arsenal are looking at it and could win and catch up. Is there a kind of tinge of frustration, but also it's one of those where you look back and you think, well, realistically, what more could we have done because of all the injuries? A bit of both, but I'm not. The Reading game will be the one that we'll look back on. For me, that'll be the one we'll look back on with the biggest frustration, with looking at 3 points that, Reading, let's be honest, played out their skin that day, came with a game plan, executed it. But that's the game really where we let ourselves down. We still had enough in the squad to win that game and we didn't. But having said that, there's still 6 games to go. And I think there's going to be points taken off from different teams throughout that period. It's a funny old season. All we can focus on now is what we can do in front of us. I can't look back now. I can't change anything. All I can do is put all my energy into making sure that we get the results moving forward. Thanks, Casey. Good luck this week. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Moving on to Glenn, please.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Glenn.
Look at point of view of the Champions League. I mean, we've mentioned it earlier. This game's obviously very important in deciding who will qualify between yourselves and Arsenal. I mean, how big a factor is Champions League when it comes to recruiting players?
It is big. Most, like I said before, players want to play in it. So if you're in it, it can give you the edge. If you've got a player that's decided between 2 clubs and someone's in it and someone's not, it can sometimes be the defining factor of whether they come or not. We've still managed in this time to recruit fantastic players despite not being in it. So I think that shows where we're at as a club. But obviously having Champions League makes my conversations as a head coach with a player easier. So yeah, obviously in terms of recruitment, it would be better if we were in it.
I mean, I'm sorry, are you speaking of players already? And as it cropped up, well, if you're in the Champions League, I'd be more tempted.
They're not really the conversation. I don't really talk about. I talk about what we can do for the player in terms of learning, development, improving them, and what they can offer us as a team. No one's actually asked me the question or spoke about a Champions League, but I know that top players always want to play in it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a big attraction for the Americans as well, because obviously there's nothing like that in the US.
No, it's different. It's very different, isn't it? So to have that attraction would definitely give you a plus as a club.
One final thing, I mean, on that, I mean, if you go through in 3rd place, which is more probable now, updated, there's 4 matches before you even get to the group stage. So I presume that makes it quite difficult in terms of juggling numbers, because if you don't, that's going to be quite difficult for the second round particularly. You don't want to end up with a bloated squad, I guess, either.
No, it's difficult because you don't want a too big a squad in terms of salaries, but you also don't want a too big a squad because you've got a lot of players not playing them, which I don't think is right. But you've also got to manage the fact that you've got an Olympic year. Some of those players coming back from Olympics won't even be able to play in the first round of the Champions League because of the timelines. They've got to have a 3-week rest off the back of the Olympics to make sure legally, contractually, they have to be obliged to that. But also, it's the right thing to do for them physically and mentally, especially off the back of this year. And don't forget, in women's football, we're going to have 5 summers of tournaments now. So if we don't rest them off the back of tournaments, we're going to break our players. So it's managing your squad. It's, making sure you've got enough in it. So those players that come back from the Olympics, and can't play, you can still get through those rounds.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Cheers, Glenn. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Susie, please.
Hi, Casey. Hope you're good.
Hiya.
Just following on from the talk about the Champions League, given the fact that you said you're 1 year ahead of schedule, perhaps in the development of the club, would it be a failure if you look back on this season having not got the Champions League? Would you consider that a failure?
Yeah, I would. For me personally, not for my players, but for me personally, I would. I would never say my players failed because they give 100% effort all the time. But for me as a head coach, I would see that as a failure, yes.
And you said you've been reviewing the injury situation. and you said it's mostly been rubbish luck, but is there anything you've changed as a result of looking into that you've noticed there are kind of gaps in?
We will do things differently next pre-season. We will bring players in, new signings. We will bring in a lot earlier than other players so that they can get adapted to our programs and the way we do things, because Lucy Stan hurt her knee in the first week, didn't have a pre-season. Alessia Russo came straight from America into quarantine, didn't have a pre-season. Tobin didn't have a pre-season. Ivana Fuso hurt herself early on in pre-season, hamstring, didn't have a pre-season. So, Lauren James was injured, didn't have a pre-season. So there's a common denominator. Those that didn't have a pre-season, have had injuries throughout. So we will bring players in. We will be in earlier as staff. We will bring players in. So those players that are either new signings or, have had injuries this season will be in 3 weeks ahead of everybody else, so that we make sure that we're looking after them. And this pre-season was like no other. So, it can't happen again in terms of, hopefully COVID will be gone and we can run normal. But we need to make sure that we are preventative rather than, finding cures all the time.
Fingers crossed. And has the injury problems that you've had taught you much about your squads and gaps in it, and where you need to strengthen over the summer?
We've had a lot of injuries to forward areas. Unfortunately, you think about it, Leah comes down funny, lands on Lucy Bronze's foot, gets injured. Tobin rolls her ankle, injured. Ivana forward, injured. Lesia injured. So, but we were really top heavy in terms of our squad, fortunately. Otherwise, we would have struggled. So, yeah, you always want players in those areas, and you want players that can score goals. So, yeah, we'll make sure that we have enough.
Awesome. Cheers, Casey. Good luck on Friday.
Yes, Susie. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. I know there's a couple that haven't asked questions. If you want to raise your hand now, if not, we will wrap for Casey's media. I think we're finished, guys. Just a reminder, this second section is embargoed till 5 on Thursday. Any questions, just give me a shout as always. But thank you very much for your time. Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.